I was surprised by some news that came out of NC State basketball today. Inside Pack Sports, I believe, was on it first. But according to multiple of their sources, NC State guard MJ Rice and forward Ernest Ross are no longer with the team. Now, Ernest Ross is an unusual one because he was in the portal, then he pulled his name out of the portal to stay. But he didn't play a ton, was never really in the plans for a giant role. MJ Rice is going to have one of the weirdest flash-in-the-pan NC State basketball careers of all time. And yes, he came in with high expectations, and for a multitude of reasons, they never really added up. He had a big dunk in the David Thompson statue game. Right? They played at Reynolds. They unveiled the statue. It was his kind of first impact game, meaning MJ Rice's first impact game. David Thompson is in the stands. MJ Rice jammered and got an applause from the guy dunking on the statue outside. Mr. Thompson himself gave him the clap, and everyone was like, watch out now. MJ Rice is coming.
And it was even that point in the game where they had a pretty sizable lead against Maryland Eastern Shore. And it's one of those things where you can look at and say, did you really have to have a highlight dunk like that? But even he got approval by Kevin Keats saying, hey, man, when the GOAT is in attendance and you get a breakaway opportunity, you got to go for it.
And when you're a player coming off an injury and you have a chance to show everybody that your explosion is coming back and you have a chance to show everybody that you still got something, you do it. Right? It's also a test for yourself, right? Where you're seeing if you feel good. He ended up playing less than 10 games. Role never really expanded, and now he's no longer with the program. That's tough, right? The flash in the pan of it is there's really just that one memorable moment. But he was on a team that made it to the Final Four. So, right, at least his presence may have helped. He was on a team that made it to the Final Four. And actually that, I think, represents even a greater missed opportunity. MJ Rice was the 37th ranked recruit in the country coming out of high school, according to 247 Sports. He was a top 40 recruit in the country. Went to Kansas for a year, transferred to NC State. Dealt with an injury, and never, like I said, got to contribute. But they ended up 2 wins short of a national championship. They made it to the Final Four. They ended up 2 wins short of hoisting the national championship trophy, and they had a 37th overall recruit in the country that just for whatever reason couldn't put it together due to injury, opportunity, and the like. Doesn't that scream of like, man, if they woulda? Doesn't that scream of if only, if only? If only he could have put it together one time. If only the leg would have held up. If only. Maybe he could have been worth 2 more wins. Maybe he could have been a couple big shots and a momentum run against Purdue. Maybe he could have gotten Zach Edey in foul trouble. The what if we'll never know.
I remember when we were doing Pat Therapy, we even talked about, because I remember MJ Rice and one other guy that was coming off of injury.
Cam Woods. He was coming out of being ineligible due to the double transfer rule, but yeah.
I remember we were saying, does Kevin Keats go Jimmy V strategy and just kind of throw these guys in there just to be physical and pick up some fouls on Zach Edey just to give guys like DJ Burns some extra cushion on defending him?
Oh, okay. You're talking about that late. You're talking about the freshman who just became available after he was sick or something like that. Mono or something like that. Yeah. But when I remember, speaking of Pack Therapy, the podcast, you can go find all of this on our YouTube page. There's all the archives. When MJ Rice and Cam Woods, who we're talking about, became eligible and healthy enough to play, I remember the big question was, how are they going to work into the rotation, and how many minutes were they going to get, and how many of this and how many of that, and at that point in the season, NC State had yet to hit their stride. And they didn't hit their stride until they were down 12 against Louisville in the first game of the ACC tournament. But there was for a while there where you thought MJ Rice coming back, where we thought MJ Rice coming back was going to kind of be the spark that unlocked their season, and it just it never happened. And now, unfortunately, all good things, no matter the best intentions, they don't always end perfectly, right? Every transfer doesn't end up getting to hit the big shot. Every decision by a coach doesn't end up being perfect. So, he moves on with, I think one very, very memorable image, the dunk. One very, very strong run for the team through the Final Four. and a bunch of what ifs and if onlys, which is not how you want your season to end.